What's going on, Soul Nation? Ginger Prime here, and if you have not been following Outriders Worldslayer, this will hopefully act as kind of a little bit of a TLDR, getting you caught up and ready for the launch. Now, this might be a series of videos, namely because I think this video specifically is going to target, you know, it's a new word, we're going to roll with it. It's going to focus in on some of the quality of life features the community has been requesting for a while, and their current status. So just because Worldslayer is releasing, you don't actually have to purchase Worldslayer. The base game is going to receive some updates, some quality of life, some bugs, balances, and more. In fact, I am working on a video that's diving more into that detail. So if you guys did subscribe to me for Outriders content, we got a little bit more here on the channel for you in the future. If you haven't, note that I do talk about a wide variety of games. If you feel like I earn it, like and subscribe for more Ginger content. We're just gonna roll with it. All right, guys. So far, we got 4 key items I want to talk to you guys about because I think these are heavily requested by the community, and the devs want to talk about them because they're not going to be in the game as of the 28th. And if you guys aren't aware, pre-ordering Worldslayer will get you access on the 28th. We will be doing a live stream here on Ginger Prime, but also the main game comes out on the 30th, and let's do it. So item locking is currently actually in development, but it's not going to be ready for launch. So they do actually hope to implement this during a free patch in the future. And for me, like as somebody who's been following this game, it's always interesting that they label it for free because they are really striving to not be, I guess, connected to a games as a service. But ultimately, we always kind of ask the question, is it in disguise? I guess we'll have to wait and see how Worldslayer is ultimately received if they want to keep going down this path. I think this game is a heck of a lot of good fun. Outside of the bugs and the issues with the launch over a year ago, if this launch ends up being smooth, this could be a really good time for people to jump back into the game, namely for the end game changes that they're making, but we'll talk more about that in a future video. Now, if you've ever played Apex Legends, I think they have set the bar in terms of marking, but the devs are currently looking into improving the quick mark functionality, specifically around the Apocalypse gear, and again, they're hoping to implement this in a future patch. So these 2 items alone, you see item locking, a free future patch, and maybe we're going to see paid future updates like expansions that might improve the marking functionality. Again, the verbiage that they state here is interesting and telling, and that's kind of why I wanted to highlight these 2 things first. Then they talked about increases in the stash size. Now, they're currently being experimented with, but they do not have any news to share regarding this right now. The main challenges here relates to finding a stash size that is a meaningful upgrade, but does also not lead to longer player load-in times or hangups. So they can currently not guarantee that this will be possible, but they are investigating the matter. And this is something that I've always wondered as a developer. Like, I understand memory, and I understand that while you're putting it in your stash, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't have it on me. Can't you just make that available? But there are obviously memory restrictions, and however the code is architected, it could always mean a wide range of things. If you're a Final Fantasy XIV player, for example, you very well know the constant struggle of maintaining that inventory. So inventory is a massive deal, especially in an RPG. Now, that all being said, my personal experience with it ends up coming into a retrieval process. I think that is a lot less memory, but it comes with its pluses and minuses, right? Like if you essentially get an item, maybe give you the ability to pull that item out on demand and maybe have some kind of currency cost to that. I think that ends up being kind of the solution that I always kind of think of, because I don't need unlimited inventory. You might be different than me, and that's cool. But I never really felt that I've needed it. I end up kind of honing in on a few things and just generally like going, the rest with it. But sometimes it turns out you're like, oh, I really want that. Oh, I had that. It'd be really great to have targeted loot, I guess, as an example, but the ability to kind of retrieve this from kind of a vault, you know, etc. Destiny kind of does this as well, to some varying success. So obviously with the random perks on it, that essentially when you break it down, you get the mods anyway. So it wouldn't be a matter of not being able to apply the correct mods that you want. But anyway, I'd love your thoughts on this overall, because stash size, inventory size, vault size, this is something that I feel is a continual conversation within gaming and gaming culture. It is what it is. And now we get to the key item that I'm excited about and at the same time a little bit disappointed in. Loadouts are not within the scope of the Worldslayer launch. though they're going to continue to recognize players' desire for this feature. I think, especially in a game with builds, it just is such a wonderful thing to have. For me, especially if you can end up naming them, it allows me to really kind of have a lot more fun with the build system, because managing a lot of the inventory ends up being, I guess, a bigger hassle. And I really hope that when it comes to loadouts, not in the scope of the launch, but the words are, they are going to continue to recognize players' desire for this. The developer mind in me looks at this and the phrasing of these words, and it feels like that's even further out. So I think if Worldslayer is a success and they're like, yep, we're going to keep rocking and rolling with it, let's keep pushing forward, then I think you could end up seeing where that happens either as a part of an update or as a part of the next expansion. But the timing on this says, yeah, they're not even saying they're working on it, as opposed to things like item locking and more. That means it's on a backlog somewhere, and that backlog means it's going to be something much deeper in the future than any of us would like to, admit in that regards. Typically, I always kind of see the general idea of like, well, why don't they just turn it on? And yeah, it would be nice if that was the case, but a little bit of disappointment in that, but that's not going to overall lower my expectations and hopes for Outriders. There's a big post that I've been working on. I'm looking forward to jumping into that with you guys today. And then hopefully if you guys want to come hang out and see Worldslayer in action, we'll be covering that here live on the channel tomorrow. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for your time. Hopefully you have a wonderful day. Hopefully I'll see you in my next video, but until then, take care.
Yeah. It's time to chill out on the couch and read some comments. That's right. You know me when it comes to Destiny. I'm off with a clan, and I'm glad you're feeling better. Oh yeah.